Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Svayang Nishreyasan Vidvan Na Vaktya Agyana Karmahi Narati Rogino Patyam Vanchato Pi Vishaktamaha. It's just very fast.
Svayam Nishreyasan Vidvan.
Nishreyasan Vidvan Na Vaktya Gaya Karmahi
Narati Rogino Patyam.
Narati Rogino Patyam Vanchato Pi Vishaktamaha. Svayang Nishreyasan Vidvan Navakyagaya Karmahi Narati Rogino Patyam Vanchato Pi Vishaktamaha. Svayang Nishreyasan Vidvan Navakyagaya Karmahi Narati Rogino Patyam Vishaktamaha. Matajis vielleicht. Svayang Nishreyasan Vidvan Svayang Nishreyasan Vidvan Narati Rogino Patyam Svayam, personally, Nishreyasam, the supreme goal of life, namely the means of obtaining ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Obtaining ecstatic love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead alone. Vidvan, one who is accomplished in devotional service. Na, not. Sakti, Bhakti, teaches. Agyaya, unto a foolish person not conversant with the ultimate goal of life. Person not conversant with the ultimate goal of life. Karma, fruitive activities. He, indeed. Na, not. Rati, administers. Roginaha, unto the patient. Apatyam, something unconsumable. Vanchataha, desiring. Api, although. Vishaktamaha, an experienced physician. A pure devotee who is fully accomplished in the science of devotional service will never instruct a foolish person to engage in fruitive activities for material enjoyment, not to speak of helping him in such activities. Such a devotee is like an experienced physician who never encourages a patient to eat food injurious to his health, even if the patient desires it. Purport. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Here is the difference between the benedictions awarded by the demigods and those awarded by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. Devotees of the demigods ask for benediction simply for sense gratification, and therefore they have been described in Bhagavad Gita as bereft of intelligence. Kamayistaya taya rita jnana prapajyanti niyadevataha tam tam niyamam asthaya pakritya niyatasvaya. Those whose minds are distorted by material desires surrender unto demigods, and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Conditioned souls are generally bereft of intelligence because of profound desires for sense gratification. They do not know what benediction to ask. Therefore, non-devotees are advised in the Shastras to worship various demigods to achieve material benefits. For example, if one wants a beautiful wife, he is advised to worship Uma or goddess Durga. If one wants to be cured of a disease, he is advised to worship the sun god. All requests for benediction from the demigods, however, are due to material lust. The benediction will be finished at the end of the cosmic manifestation, along with those who bestow them. If one approaches Lord Vishnu for benedictions, the Lord will give him a benediction that will help him return home back to Godhead. This is also confirmed by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 10.10. Tesha satatatam yuktanam bhajatam priti bhuvakam tadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayanti te. Lord Vishnu or Lord Krishna instructs a devotee who constantly engages in his service how to approach him at the end of his material body. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4.9, Janma kama chamedivyam evang yoveti tatvataha chaktvadihang punha janma naitimam iti su arjuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities and does not, upon leaving the body, takes his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. This is the benediction of Lord Vishnu Krishna. After giving up his body, a devotee returns home back to Godhead. A devotee may foolishly ask for material benediction, but Lord Krishna does not give him such benedictions, despite the devotee's prayers. Therefore, people who are very attached to material life do not generally become devotees of Krishna or Vishnu. Instead, they become devotees of the demigods. The benediction of the demigods, however, are condemned in Bhagavad Gita. Men of small intelligence worship the demigods, and their fruits are limited and temporary. A non-Vaishnava, one who is not engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is considered a fool with a small quantity of brain substance. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatyadi Satarine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Sivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. You are for the first time? And English is good for you? Okay. Okay. Yeah, okay. So if I just repeat the verse, a pure devotee who is fully accomplished in the science of devotional service will never instruct a foolish person to engage in fruitive activities for material enjoyment, not to speak of helping him in such activities. Such a devotee is like an experienced physician who never encourages a patient to eat food injurious to his health, even if the patient desires it. So there's the word fruitive activities. We want to have a fruit. We do something and there will be some result. So even if we do today Rasa Yatra, there's also a fruit, a spiritual fruit, some result. People, they see this nice chariot, they see this Jagannath deity, they eat some prasadam, food which we offer to Krishna, and maybe they come here and become devotees. This is a fruit, also fruit. Everything takes there's some kind of fruit. But the fruit here is talking about a material fruit. So we have to work. No? Keshava, everyone has to work. We have a family. We need some money, and the money is a fruit. So therefore, it's recommended in the Bhagavad Gita we should give some of these fruits to Krishna, or some. If you don't give it to Krishna, you should give it to some good organization at least. The Germans are very famous for giving a lot of donations in the world. So they give all kinds of food for children in Africa or whatever. So they give away. So by giving away the fruit, then you become purified. You understand why I don't. The mind starts thinking why I should give my fruits away. This is my fruit. I have worked so hard. So our mind is always arguing. If I have some money, and I give the money to someone else who is nice, doing something nice. We do this. We have this temple here in this valley, and we can give some money to this to develop it. So then the mind starts arguing why I should do this. What they do with the money? They just eat, or they just have a nice heating, whatever. What is the use? So the mind starts arguing. So therefore, this is recommended even if we are in the material world working. Is this in the Bible? You should get 10%. It's in the Islam. You should give 10% of your money, whatever comes to you, to God. And by doing this, you get purified. You get spiritualized, and your work becomes spiritualized. And Krishna will take care of you. Krishna says, whatever you have, whatever you need, Krishna will give to you, no problem. There is someone like God. We don't see him. Everywhere is God. If we have the eyes, we can see everywhere God, in every little detail of this world, in the plants, on the altar, on the wood. Everything is created by someone. This is God. He is the creator. So we should have some faith that there is someone who will protect us. And if we give to him something, then he will show himself to us by giving something to us also. And he will maintain us. This is the secret. This is the mystic. We surrender to God. Oh God, please. I had a problem in my life when I was young, and I had a lot of children, and I had a money problem, and I did some food prasadam distribution. I was selling some prasadam, some food, some yogi bar. For 3 years I was doing this. And then after some time I had so many debts. I had and I don't want to say the figure, but I had some debts. But I also had a big family. So I was thinking, why God doesn't help me? I'm doing this prasadam distribution and food, giving food to other people. Why he's not helping me? And I was a little frustrated. And then I had so much debt. I only had some money left. So I said, there's a story from Draupadi. She was, someone wanted to make her naked and saw the sari and wanted to drag the sari more and more. And then she was surrendering to Krishna, and then Krishna was supplying a lot, always some more and more cloth. This was a special story. But she surrendered to God, and God helped her. So I gave the money, the left money which I had, to the temple. It was 700 Mark, Deutsche Mark. And then after 2 days, someone came. I had a little shop. Someone came to me and said, "Here I have there's my friend, the wife died, and he has a big house, 4-story house, filled up with furniture, books, everything, filled up with antique furniture, everything. You can have this and empty this house. You give me there's a painting I want to have as a reward for giving this contact." And then he wants to have 1,700 Deutsche Mark. So I said, okay, I will do. So then there was a wardrobe, Schrank, Art Deco, Jugendstil, and I put it in the Schaufenster and I sold it for 1,700 Mark. It was antique, and I paid him, and the rest was for free. So with the money from this emptying this house, I paid all my debts. Everything I could pay. So this was like in 2 days. I gave the money to the temple. 2 days later, this guy came, and this Krishna can make like this, and he gives you money. So this was a revelation for me that it works. So from this time on, I always gave some donations to become purified. This is a purification for the fruits, because the fruits you become greedy. This is the greediness become, whoa. This is like Mahatma Gandhi says, there's enough food for everyone. There's enough for everyone, but not for the greedy. If the people become greedy and want to have more, what they really need, and collect, then they take it from someone else, which is given. Actually, God created everything for everyone, but if you take more, you don't need so much, then becomes a problem. The greed, this is the greediness. So our whole procedure is to become purified from greed, lust, anger, and illusion, and all these things, and then develop some attachment to God. That there is someone who is helping us, and he is very merciful. This is Krishna or God. He doesn't want us to suffer in this world, and he helps us to become realized that he is the real goal of life. This is the idea, that we want to take people, show people, oh, here is God, and he can solve all your problems. Why you should suffer in this material world? And now the material world is getting a little chaos also. Yesterday I was driven by train. The train is chaos. Everything is too late. Always they announce, I'm sorry, half an hour too late. I'm sorry, Baba. And the next half an hour too late, so sorry. 1 hour too late, so sorry. Always the whole time. And people sitting in the train and completely filled up, completely chaos. And then, we living in the times where people have to realize that the material world is not, you cannot take refuge in the material world. There is no refuge in this world. Where is the refuge? No. So, in the last times, I was watching some YouTube videos about near-death experience, and I thought this is little nonsense, or it's not useful for a devotee to see these things. But then I looked. There's some from Switzerland. One guy, he is interviewing people. He always has the same words. I heard you had some near-death experience. Can you tell us about this experience? So I had about 20 near-death experience videos from YouTube. I listened to them. And then there are many heavy things to these people happening. They have some near-death things. So there's one lady, she was making some fire, and the whole dress starts burning, and she was like the whole body was in flames, and she fell on the ground, and her son came, and the ambulance came, and she fell in some coma. For 9 days she was in some kind of coma. There was one guy, he was in South Africa driving motorcycle, and then a big truck came, and he was having a crash, and the arm was ripped off, the leg was ripped off, and the lungs was ripped off. One lung and the other lung was still functioning, and he was in the hospital, and he was floating above this body. He left the material body, and he was floating under the ceiling in his astral body, and watching from there down. And the doctors, they tried to rescue him, and it was like the whole body was destroyed, more or less, and he was watching. And then they said, okay, he will die, no problem. This is we cannot do anything. And then some other doctor came in, and then he said, oh, he's moving. He's moving. So we should try. So they brought him back to life. And there's another story. There's one young man. He himself said he was born in a Christian sect. He himself said, I was in a Christian sect. But when he was 4 years old, when he was going to sleep at night, he was sometimes, the body was sleeping, but he left the body, and he was with some heavenly, nice situation, like someone teaching him, and he was like 4 years child, but he was still in this different realm. And sometimes he was in some very bad realm where people chasing him and beating him, and like this. He had this ability to leave the body. And then with his brother, they went on the roof to clean the windows of his church, and he fell from the roof 12 meters down, and he crashed. 12 meters. If you jump from 10 meters from the swimming pool, this is quite high, and he was 12 meters falling on the ground. And his brother was looking down, and he left also his body. And then the ambulance came, and they brought him to the ambulance, and his mother was sitting in the ambulance. And then he was leaving the body, watching, and then he was coming in some kind another level, and then suddenly he was going through this tunnel. That like 80% of these people, they talking about like some kind of tunnel, whereas in the back they see some light, and they go through some long tunnel, flying with high speed through this tunnel, and then they come out, and then they see this light. And so he was going through this tunnel, and they come out into this light, and he was very attracted to this light. He wanted to come to this light, and in this, he said, with the speed of his mind, he was going through this tunnel. And then when he was out, he saw many of these people saw different entities moving around, and they could understand that these people are like some brothers or father or grandfather or some friendly people or some angels who want to help them. So they were on a different level, and they feel very warm. They feel suddenly no pain. They had no pain anymore. Even they had some heavy accident before, there was no pain anymore. They feel very warm. They see many colors. They saw many colors they never saw before. They saw many, like this pastel, I know English word pastel, very subtle, special colors they never saw in their life. And they felt to be at home. They had the feeling, now I am at home. And then they realized, I have my body is lying there, and the body is not, I'm here, but I don't have I don't care anymore about this body, which is lying half dead. I don't care, I don't want to go, I just be here. And they feel they can expand, they feel very free. And then they could also see 360 degrees around. Also, our eyes are like this, we only see in the front. But a rabbit, he has one eye here, one eye here. He could see 360 around, because they have always enemies and he has to run. So then in this world, they could see 360 Grad im Kreis, they could see. And then some people came to them and they talked to them, but they don't talk with mouth, they talk with the heart. They talk by telepathic. This is like the emotion from one person to the other person. You understand what you think, what you say, what you feel, the depths of whatever you say, and it comes to me in my heart, and I understand 100% what you want, what you say, in all depths. It's very, and you feel also the emotion, the love of the person who has for you. It also comes to you. This was their realization. They could not, in words, they could not speak in words how it is possible. There was no time. There was no time. And it was every time. The time was very fresh. And there was unconditional love for these people. Had unconditional love. They had this feeling, at least. And then they could also go to different levels. Some of these could go to different levels in the universe. They help them to go to the different planets in the universe, and they could see the different consciousness of people in the different planets in the universe. Some of these were describing these. And then they were coming to another level. Some of them, not all of them, there were different levels where they can reach. But some of them they had talking about some silver schnur, what's called? Thread, silver thread, where they are connected with this body, and the soul is like a rubber band, it can expand. So they could go to God. They had some realization that there is a God, and when he was a doctor for brain cutting in the brain with a knife. I don't know. It was neuropathology. Yeah. Neuropathologue, and he was completely thinking about the body is just the brain, is everything you think, it's in the brain, and if something is missing in the brain, you cannot think. So he wrote 4 books, about very famous books, about that he got some bacterial infection, bacterial meningitis in his brain, and the brain started to deteriorate. And according to his knowledge, the brain became completely finished. And he was also in some kind of coma, but he realized, he came to the tunnel and he realized these different levels, and he was also speaking to God. He said God is very humorous. God is very humorous, and he is like we think we are, like a person, and he had this realization, these kinds of things. But and then everyone talking about the love which comes to the light. And some of them, they were floating in the light. And it's like said, we believe that there is some kind of light. The Brahman is called in Sanskrit. And there are some Brahmavadis, people who are floating in this light. It's like the Buddhists little similar to Buddhist nirvana. So they're floating in this light, and some people, they hate God, and they think this light is the highest, and there's nothing above this light. Floating in this light is the highest, and they don't want to have something to do with a God who is a person. But some people are very, like these, mostly these people, very simple people, never had any religious philosophy. They just had some realization, and then they floating in this light. And we had some example of the four Kumaras. They were Brahmavadis, but they didn't make any offense against God. They only were in this Brahman light, and the light was already love. There was some feeling of love. This is not like, if we think about love, usually we have one person and another person, and there is some exchange, and then we talk about love. But they only feel like protected, they feel the mercy, there's mercy, they feel some kind of love, floating in the light, and the light was coming through all the body, and the whole body was surcharged with light, and they never wanted to, they say, Haribol, they never say Haribol, but they say, I don't want to go back, it's nice here. So there was always the near-death people, they always some situation where someone talked to them and said, you have to go back. This is just, you have a little vision of this world, but you have to go back. So then they went back to this body and came back into this body, and they had really long problems in this body, coming back to the body, living in this world. They could not talk to other people because no one was taking serious. They say, yeah, this is some illusion, this is nonsense, you forget it. So they had really long problems with this. And then after some time they realized that many people have the same experience. So they become conscious, and they forget, they don't have any more fear of death. They don't have any fear of death. So our philosophy, Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, we talk about this Brahman, this light. There is this light, and you can come to this light. But beyond the light, there is some other world, even beyond. And this other world is called Vaikuntha, or the place without anxiety. And this is the spiritual world. In the sense, the Christians say paradise, the paradise. But we say Vaikuntha, the place where God resides in the spiritual body, and where we have also a spiritual body, and where we can live forever, and we don't have to come back to this world. This is, all the religions talk about this in different ways. So we want to go back to this Godhead, to this even spiritual world. And this Jagannath Ratha Yatra festival is like dragging us back to this spiritual world. Dragging these ropes, we drag ourselves back to the spiritual world. This very esoteric, high-level story is like Radha and Krishna. We have on the altar Radha and Krishna. So Krishna is God, and Radharani is his energy, and we are also part of this energy. We also like servants of God. Radharani, she feels herself like a servant of God. And Krishna was together in the spiritual world with Radharani in a special place. It's called Vrindavan. Vrindavan is in the spiritual world where there are all these natural. We live here in the countryside with flowers and all this nice nature, but in the spiritual world there's also some place where these things are there, like little animals and little birds and cows and there's a river, but all these things are very completely spiritual. We have to think in terms of these realizations of these people. There's another world, and if I talk about the spiritual world, this is not something around the corner somewhere, nice garden or something. This is something in a different level, and this different level is full of life, full of love, and full of activity. And all the plants in the spiritual world, they take part in the love of Radha and Krishna. So we have some flowers there, or some animals there, and like these people, they have this telepathic realization what the other person thinks. In the spiritual world, all these living entities, they take part in the love affair of Radha and Krishna. The plants, they make with their leaves, they make some air for them to be cool down, or they all of these animals, they can speak the language of, like we have Walt Disney, you know Walt Disney? The animals can talk. So this in the spiritual world also the animals can talk to Krishna. Krishna can speak the language of the animals, and the animals talk. And there is one papagay, this is what's called English? Parrots. There are some parrots, and they are, you know, in the material world, these parrots, they can make some repetition of some things. So in these parrots in the spiritual world, they worship Krishna. They say, they talk about Krishna. Krishna is God, and he has a blue color body, and the blue color body is not a material body like we have. So the blue color of Krishna is like, it's called the lotus flower blue. It's called the sapphire. You know the blue sapphire? If someone has a sapphire ring, the blue of a sapphire and the blue of a dark rain cloud. There's a very mystical blue. God, the color of his skin is not like we, brown or white or red or yellow. He has a blue color. But his blue, the color of God's skin, is mystically so beautiful. The blue is very variation of blue. This is not like, you don't see the blue in this world. The blue of Krishna's skin is not the color of this world. It's not describable, it's not imaginable, it's beyond our imagination, this color. And it's like pervading the area. If you come to Krishna, maybe you're happy, you go to Krishna, and first you see some blue color everywhere. And you smell also Krishna. Krishna is also smelling. He has a nice, very nice smell, and the smell is charging the whole, everywhere you can smell Krishna. Because this smell is not limited. Like sometimes we go on the street and some lady comes, she has put some bottles of perfume and she's smelling. But Krishna's smell is very nice and it goes very far. And you go to Krishna and you see the blue, you see this, you smell. And maybe if you're lucky, you hear Krishna's flute. Krishna is always, you see, always Krishna has this flute. So Krishna has some people like to play guitar, some people like to play violin, but Krishna's like to play the flute. So, but when the sound of music carries the emotion, if you have emotion in your heart and you put it into music, someone else can feel the same emotion you feel in the material world. This is like the secret of a good musician. If you feel something, you put it into the music and it goes into your ear and you feel, ooh, I get some goosebumps. No? But Krishna, if he plays his flute, all the living entities, they become motionless because the energy of love Krishna is putting in the flute playing is so intense that they cannot move anymore. And the tears coming from their eyes, the cows especially, they cannot move. Ooh. And the train, there come some tears from their eyes. And it says even the stones, they melt. In the spiritual world, it's possible. We don't think it's not possible, but it's in the spiritual world, everything is conscious. The stones melt. And it says there are some trees, and underneath the trees, there are very nice sitting platforms made from ruby and some emeralds and some gold. And they have nice, and then they melt and forming another structure. When Krishna stops playing the flute, suddenly something else comes out of this. It's liquid, becomes liquid. And then it becomes another structure, and it's also very nice. This is like because everything is conscious in the spiritual world, and everyone is connected. This is like these. So and Krishna was in Vrindavan in this very nice forest and nice atmosphere, and there's a story that Krishna left Vrindavan. He never leaves Vrindavan, but there's a story like this to make it more interesting. Because Krishna can expand himself. We only one person. If we go out the door, there is no one here. But if Krishna, he can expand in many Krishnas. And he has already expanded that Krishna is in our heart. In my heart, hopefully. And in all of yours heart is Krishna. The same Krishna he has expanded. So Krishna can expand himself. He can be at the same time in different places. This is the mystic also from Krishna. So one Krishna can leave Vrindavan, and the gopis say, "Oh, Krishna, how you can leave us?" Well, they fall unconscious. And then he goes with his chariot, he's going away. But it's not like he will not come. He's still in Vrindavan. This is just like a little moment for the gopis, the feeling of separation. But then it's not like 100. We think of 100 years. We think in terms of 100 years or 50 years and time. In the spiritual world, there is nothing like time. This idea of time, past and future, is not in the spiritual world. Everything is present. And everything is fresh, and everything is new, and everything is not like you see the person next time, you see, okay, I know him. No, Krishna sees the same person at this, he sees Radharani, and they say, oh, I never saw this, why? I never saw this lady before. How is it possible that she looks so beautiful? She knows this is Radharani, but this is always new. So Krishna is leaving Vrindavan. This is the story. And then after some time, Radharani, she met Krishna again. And then she said, you should come back to Vrindavan. And then he feels, oh, I have to come back to Vrindavan. And this is like Jagannath festival, our festival we do. The internal, very high level esoteric meaning is that Krishna is going back to Vrindavan. Radharani is dragging him back to Vrindavan, and we drag Krishna in our heart again because we have forgotten Krishna. Krishna is already in our heart, but we have forgotten Krishna. We have to turn our consciousness towards Krishna. Krishna is there waiting, but we look outside. Nice. What can we do in this world? I want to become this. But Krishna is in our heart waiting. If we turn back, then Krishna is our heart. So this is like it's called in the Brahma Samhita, this is said, this Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena is called, this is in our, if our eyes have these salve of love, if we have some love for God, if we develop love for God, this is bhakti. Bhakti yoga means to develop love for God. This is we try to do it. Then we can see Krishna in our heart. And then the spiritual world will open in our heart. Because this in Bhaktisiddhanta says in the explanation of this is the real place of Krishna, is our heart. Krishna is in the heart of all living entities, and we realize Krishna in our heart. We go inside. We don't look outside anymore. We go inside ourselves. This is the idea. So Hare Krishna. So there's some questions, some comments. Haben Sie alles verstanden? Nicht so, ne? Geht so, ne? Bisschen, ne? Haben Sie eine Frage vielleicht? Ja. Ja. This is universal. It's not like we have one special religion and the other religions, they have something else. This is the idea that it's universal approach. We can find the same principles in all the different religions of the world, in different degrees maybe, but the same principle. Hare Krishna. So if there's no question.
A short one. We hear of those people having near-death experience, and they go to places like this Brahman where the light is. But we hear in the scriptures that in order to go there, in those areas, you need some requirement. You need to do some spiritual work on yourself, and then you can actually reach there. So how is it that those persons that maybe apparently did not do any work could get access to go there?
Yeah, I think this is like from previous life. They have some good karma from previous life, and they're not conscious about it. And then they mostly say, I'm not religious, but I am interested in these kinds of things. And then there are different levels. Some people, they only go there and they see their grandmother, and then they go back. Some people, they go to higher levels. There was one lady, she could go very far. She was very far, and she was going, and then she met someone in the spiritual world, and half a year later, some disciples of one of these gurus from India, they brought her some books, and she never knew these people. How you can come to me to bring these things? So our guru says you are capable of knowing. So they had some in the spiritual realm, some kind of spiritual realm. The guru recognized this person, and then he connected to the material level. So there's different kinds of levels where the people reach. And I think it's because of some previous... And there was one Mataji, some young girl, she was in the church sitting there because she was feeling, she wanted to relax, sitting there, and suddenly something happened. It just happened, And there's also one lady, she can go without having some problems with the body, she can leave the body and go to different planets in the universe. She was describing different levels in the universe of consciousness. She just can go there. My daughter, she made an experiment leaving the body. She was reading a book, How to Leave the Body, and making astral travel. So she did this, and then she left the body and she was going through the door. There was a closed door, and she could put her hand to the wood, the astral body, and then she became afraid. Oh, what's going on here? And then immediately she went back. But it's possible. You can leave the body if you do there are some kind of techniques, and then you leave the body, but you have to be also. Yeah, my daughter. I have some special relationship with my daughter, telepathic. After I had some relationship with her also, that I could be with her telepathic. Some things going on. I heard some. I was driving in the car and the music was very loud, and I pushed the music down. And then my daughter said, "I just thought you have to push the music down," and then you immediately did. So like this, small things. So I have some people can have, and some if I know someone will come, and 5 minutes later the person comes into the door. The person thinks I will go to him, and I get the idea, and then I think, this person may, and then suddenly he comes. So many times these things. If we are conscious, we also have these abilities. And when we become vegetarian and starting doing meditation, chanting Hare Krishna and all these things, then we develop these kinds of abilities. But this is a side effect, but it's there also. Okay, we stop. Yeah.
I have a small question, a little bit out of the tense, but when you say to give the